What if the biggest cartel in America didn't hide from the government? It used the government's keys. Operation Fracture just hit 14 states with 3,200 federal agents. And by 8:03 a.m., the Iron Corridor was collapsing. We're breaking down the Meridian Ledger, 77 names, clearance codes, transport authorizations, and the 43 indicators found in Senator Marcus Hale's office that show a 2-decade plan to weaponize bureaucracy. Watch to see the exact mechanism that pushed 2 tons of fentanyl and heroin through federal gates with impunity, and how it finally snapped. Before we move on, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel and like the video. That binder scared agents because it didn't point to one shipment. It showed how the gates worked. On Hale's desk sat the Meridian Ledger, a plain spine and a silent promise that every locked door had a pass-through. Inside, 77 names tied to access points and routing instructions. And next to it, 43 indicators that read like a control panel for federal movement. It wasn't theory. It was timing, codes, and signatures aligned with calendars that decide when eyes open and when eyes look away. The indicators looked like routine paperwork until you saw the timestamps. Clearance memos listed the exact classification tags used by agencies to fast-track mission cargo. Transport authorizations carried date stamps that matched known shipment windows. Routing overlays used internal reference numbers that mirror federal logistics maps, lane IDs, hub codes, and node designators that only make sense if you know the skeleton of the system. When agents ran those overlays against historical traffic data, the paths lined up with corridors that normally move defense parts and sensitive equipment. Signatures told the rest of the story. Initials appeared beside procurement calendar entries that created narrow windows where inspections were deferred for mission continuity. In those windows, a trailer could move across 3 states with no secondary check, because the schedule itself created a clean audit trail. The paper didn't erase scrutiny. It made scrutiny look unnecessary. 3 indicator types kept repeating. First, clearance code matrices that downgraded risk profiles. A shipment flagged as hazardous could be relabeled under a lower risk tier when paired with an exercise code or a maintenance return tag. Second, routing code swaps that shifted cargo onto pre-cleared corridors. A swap changed the destination hub ID to one attached to a trusted contractor route, which meant the system read it as routine throughput. Third, safety hold, releases that killed red flags in seconds. When a sensor or paperwork mismatch triggered a hold, a release code, signed and time-bound, overrode the stop and restored movement. One case showed the mechanics. A Phoenix to Atlanta run started as a hazmat load slated for a full inspection at a New Mexico gate. Hours before the crossing, the ledger's notation matched a code change. The cargo category flipped to a routine military transfer linked to a maintenance reclamation cycle. That shift moved the truck from a high-scrutiny lane to a corridor set aside for expedited returns. The inspection order converted into a pass-without-delay note, consistent with how defense logistics prioritize mission returns and time-sensitive components. The bill of lading kept the same weight, the same trailer number, the same driver. Only the codes moved, and the gate moved with them. This is how normal policy levers work when used at scale. Transport contract coordinators set inspection frequency and scheduling software. Safety inspectors choose gate lanes and escalation tiers based on codes and timing windows. None of that breaks policy. It selects options within it. If a load arrives during a shift change, flagged as mission critical with a contractor badge that carries pre-clearance, the path shortens and the questions get fewer. Layer that across state lines, and a corridor starts to form without anyone drawing a new map. The ledger linked payments to outcomes. Notes referenced routing changes that matched reroutes in traffic records within 24 hours. Separate entries lined up with documentation exceptions that suppressed evidence scans at hubs where the same shipments passed. Investigators look for that pattern language in RICO-style mapping. The same names circling authorization points, the same code families appearing minutes before a release, the same contractors logging batch moves that cleared in improbable time. In the end, those 43 indicators weren't stray papers. They were synchronized levers, each tied to a pass event that glided through with no friction. If the binder was the brain, the Iron Corridor was the bloodstream, built to move without a pulse on scanners. 2 tons move clean when authority rides shotgun. The Iron Corridor did not need new roads. It stitched a route across 14 states using oversight powers already in the system, transport contracts built for speed, and gate access that favors mission traffic. Defense lanes became arteries. Contracted carriers held badges that opened side gates. Schedules locked to procurement calendars pushed loads through during low visibility windows. The result looked like standard throughput on paper, even while the cargo was anything but. Safeguards existed at every turn. K-9 teams, thermal cameras, random pull-ins. But they lose teeth when the label on the manifest reads mission essential or time-critical defense material. Pre-labeled freight moves to the front. Lane supervisors see codes that signal priority. Thermal hits get marked as equipment anomalies when the trailer belongs to a trusted contractor. K-9 alerts still matter, but the protocol shifts to avoid delaying what the system believes is urgent. The corridor did not beat security. It told security what to prioritize. The logistics stack made that message uniform. Contractor badges granted pre-clearance at federal hubs. Convoys timed departures to dodge shift changes and audit sweeps. Dispatchers used concise code words over radio that translate to "do not delay," the kind of phrasing common in mission traffic. When the first tractor cleared a lane, the second and third rolled in the same window to ride the same clearance profile. If a hold popped up, a safety release code closed it inside a minute. That rhythm created a moving ghost, visible to the system, but not treated as a threat. One Georgia hub showed the playbook. 2 trailers rolled in marked as surplus defense components. Their routing instructions matched a federal reclamation program schedule down to the date and hour, which reduced inspection steps. The yard manager saw a match in the system and pushed them to a fast lane. The manifest details were dry. Lot numbers, cage codes, return authorizations. But the flags that triggered deeper checks did not fire because the paperwork matched a trusted program's calendar. The trailers moved out before the next random inspection cycle began. Operation Fracture pulled the ghost into daylight by forcing contact. Infrared drones watched the corridor at night and tagged heat signatures consistent with rolling convoys that should not have been clustered. K-9 units stacked at natural choke points, bridges, toll systems, inland ports. And when a tag tripped, spike systems flattened tires on the run. The lanes that had moved on trust had to stop and show contents. That is where the priority fiction failed. The corridor tied directly into production and entry nodes. A Phoenix conversion site pressed raw fentanyl powder into pills at scale and loaded pallets by the thousand. An El Paso compound sat over a tunnel shaft that fed the outbound lanes without touching normal commercial crossings. Those sites fed the same contractor routes that federal hubs already recognized. Production, entry, and transport stayed on one script. Labeling did the rest. Using specific NAICS codes or mission tags lowers inspection priority in established customs and defense logistics practice. The code tells the system which cargo supports operations and which can wait. When a shipment carries the right tag and hits the right time window, it moves. Clearance matrices and timing windows turn aggressive screening into routine flow. That is how the Iron Corridor passed, not by disappearing, but by wearing the credentials of speed. The corridor ran because Senate oversight became steering. Once the steering hand surfaced, the same gates that opened on command started locking in sequence, and movement finally met friction. The most dangerous smuggler isn't at a fence line. It's the signature that flips a red light green. One mark on a clearance memo can move trucks faster than any back road. Drugs do not reach a nation through borders alone. They reach it through the silence of those trusted to guard the gates. That silence turned into corridors, contracts, and timed releases that looked lawful because the paperwork said so. Tell me in the comments which safeguard you'd fix first: codes, contracting, or oversight. And share this to push a real debate on hardening federal gates. Next, we trace humanitarian funds masking corridor payments across 23 jurisdictions.